Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sayyida Heba Bukhari. Welcome to my channel The Mat Corner, and today the topic of our conversation would be about bones. So what is a bone? A bone is a living tissue, or you can say a connective tissue. It consists of cells, the fiber. We know that tissue consists of cells, fibers and the matrix. So the bone also have its own cell, its own fibers and its own matrix. So the next question which came in my mind is by which type of cell the bones are formed. So basically the bones are formed by the osteogenic cells. So what is the osteogenic cell? Osteogenic cells are the stem cell that are the basic cells by which the osteocyte, the osteoblast and the osteoclast cell are formed. What is the function of these cells? So osteoblast help in the formation of bone. The osteocyte maintain the bone tissue, bone marrow and all the requirements, while the osteoclast help in the destruction of bone or the degeneration of bones. So let's talk about the function of bone. Number first is the protection. We all know very well that the skull and the vertebral column provide protection to the brain and the spinal cord. We know that the rib cage provide protection to the heart, the lungs from any damage or injury. Number second is the liver. We know that the long bones like our arms or our limbs are they have the long bones. So these long bones act as a liver. They are used to lift the things. Number third is the calcium storage. We know that the bones are the bank of calcium. Okay? They store the calcium, and in case of any body requirement, when the body need calcium, they provide the calcium. Okay? The bones release the calcium into the bloodstream, and the organ which need the calcium absorb the calcium and fulfill its requirement. So now let's talk about the structural classification of bone. Okay? On the basis of the structure, we divide the bone into the two categories, the compact one and the spongy one. So what is a compact one? The compact word itself indicates that it is something that is tightened or hard in nature, while the spongy indicate that is something that is soft and have a power to absorb anything. So spongy bones. So we classify the bone on the compact and the spongy level. The compact bone, as I told you, that they are hard in nature, so they have the more matrix and less spaces, while the spongy one that I have told you, they are the soft ones, so they have less matrix and more spaces. So now let's talk about the classification of a bone on the basis of their region and the shapes. We have the long bones, the short bones, the flat bone, the irregular bone and the sesamoid bones. Now let's talk about each of them one by one. So first of all, we will talk about the long bones. So the long bone are found in the limb. You can remember by the word L for long and L for the limbs. The upper limb and the lower limb both have the long bones. In upper limb you can see the humerus, the radius, the ulna, the metacarpals and the phalanges. All are the example of the long bone. While in the lower limb you see the femur, the tibia, the fibula, the metatarsal and again the phalanges. All are the examples of the long bone. So now let's take a look over the anatomy of the long bone. As you guys can see, diaphysis is a tubular shaft area of the long bone. It is a very expanded and large prominent. Epiphyses are the expanded end of the long bone. And the epiphyses and the diaphysis are separated from one another by the epiphyseal cartilage. The epiphyseal cartilage separate the epiphysis from the diaphysis part. You can see in the diaphysis area there is a medullary cavity. The medullary cavity contains the bone marrow of the bone. The medullary cavity is lined with the compact bone. The compact bone is hard in nature, as I told you previously that compact bone is a hard in nature. So the compact bone provides the protection to the bone marrow. Next to that you can see the cartilage. The cartilage over here at the end of the epiphysis is termed as the articular cartilage. The articular cartilage are present so that they can reduce the friction between the two bones. Now the last thing is the periosteum. As we know that the outer part of the shaft is composed of the compact bone. The compact bone is provided with an additional layer which is called the periosteum, which is used which provide the protection to the compact bone. That's all for the long bone. Now moving to the next point, which is a short bone. Short bone. The short bone are found in the hand and the foot. Hand means the wrist joint, which include the carpal bone, and foot means the ankle joint, which include the tarsal bone as shown in the diagram. If we take a look over the structure of the short bone, so you guys can see the short bone are rough or cuboidal in shape as shown in the diagram, and they are composed of the spongy bone inside. The spongy bone is surrounded by a layer of the compact bone. The compact bone is again covered by a layer of periosteum, as we have discussed in the long bone. The articular surface of the short bone are again covered with the hyaline cartilage to reduce the friction between the two bones. Moving to the third point, the flat bone. So the flat bone are found in the skull, the scapula of shoulder, the sternum and the rib cage. All these bones are highlighted in this diagram with the red color. The whole skull is not the part of the is made up of flat bone. Some part of the skull, like the frontal and the parietal bone, are the flat bone, while other may be irregular in nature. So if we take a look over the anatomy of the flat bone, so like any other bone we have discussed earlier, like the long and the short bone, it is also spongy inside, and the outer layer of this bone is surrounded by the compact bone. And the special thing about the flat bone is that the two flat bone may be separated from one another by the cancellous bone, which is also called as the diploid. For example, if we take a look over the parietal bone of the skull, the two parietal bone of the skulls are separated from one another by a sagittal suture. The sagittal suture is a cancellous bone in nature. Okay, so next to it we have the irregular bone. So the irregular bone are those bone which are not assigned in the previous group, obviously. But the irregular bones are include the some bone of the skulls which are not the flat one, the vertebrae and the pelvic bone, which include the ilium, ischium and the pubis, that is a hip bone. Like any other bone, the anatomy of the irregular bone is same, that the interior of the bone is made up of cancellous or spongy in nature, while the outer side is compact in nature. So the last one is a sesamoid bone. The sesamoid bone are the bone which are present in the tendon of a muscle. So if we take a look over the diagram, we can see that is on the foot we have a sesamoid bone present on the big toe only. So it is present in the tendon of the flexor pollicis brevis and flexor hallucis brevis. Next to it you can see the knee joint. On the knee joint you can see the red colored marked bone, which is known as patella or the kneecap. It is also a sesamoid bone which is present in the tendon of the quadriceps femoris muscle. Okay guys, so that's all for today. I hope you guys understand it very well, and if you have any query you can ask me in the comment section below. I will try to respond it as soon as possible. And if you like the video, then make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, The Med Corner. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye. Allah Hafiz.